Hello, my name is Bajec and I will present the research that was done by my colleagues at the University of Ljubljana and the University of Siegen. We were dealing with a test of time perspective-based interventions on the well-being in the pandemic. The problem that we tried to study, we tried to study the efficacy of time perspective-based interventions on well-being in an early phase of the pandemic as a way to encounter these negative impacts. To prepare the interventions, we used the suggestions prepared by World Health Organization, National Health Institute of Slovenia, and Slovenian Clinical Psychologists Association, and gathered those general suggestions with the time perspective-based suggestions primarily taken from the Time Cure by Zimbardo's work and Sword, by introducing time perspective coaching, a new approach to improve time management and enhance well-being. Time perspective coaching, both done by Boniwell, Oswin, and Sirtsova. In order to prepare the interventions that would be experimentally similar, we decided to use the same method, aiming at different time perspectives. And the methods that we used were setting structure, work on emotions, do something with your friend, visiting a web page, breathing with self-motivation, workout, food, learning from experiences, doing some community service, getting informed, some gratitude, music, breathing with relaxation, and talking to someone close. For example, when we speak about talking to someone close, we can see some examples here. We prepared the interventions aiming at in general interventions that were proposed by the World Health Organization. In case of talk to someone close, was talk to someone close about your favorite movie. Positive past was talk to someone close about some nice memories about your childhood. Hedonistic present was talk to someone close about some fun things you can do today. And the positive future was talk to someone close about your plans for time after the end of the pandemic. We prepared those interventions, and in April and May 2020, we gathered 150 respondents that answered our questionnaires measuring time perspective with Zimbardo and negative future time perspective as well, prepared by colleagues from Sweden. And different measures of well-being, such as psychological needs, subjective well-being, positive and negative affective scale, work-family conflict, family-work conflict, and job satisfaction. After that, to all 150 participants, we sent different interventions. We prepared 5 groups of interventions, one group of general interventions proposed by the World Health Organization, and 4 groups aiming at past positive, present hedonistic, future positive, and balanced time perspective. The balanced time perspective group was just a mixture of past, present, and future oriented interventions. All the interventions had 14 proposals, and all the participants got for those 14 daily suggestions. The participants were randomly assigned to 5 different experimental groups. At the end of 14 days period, 85 participants responded to our questionnaire, in which we asked them about the implementation of interventions, evaluation of those interventions that we sent them, and their well-being in all the measures that were used at the beginning of the experiment. Results show that we have statistically significant effects in need, popularity, influence, psychological need. All the interventions that were aiming at balanced time perspective and future time perspective had greater impact than others, while general interventions, as the World Health Organizations proposed, had the lowest impact on that need. Autonomy, on the other hand, as a psychological need, when congruent time perspective interventions were used, the results for people that were using them were better than in case when people were assigned to a general group, or a group that is not congruent with their time perspective. There is also some marginally significant effects in satisfaction with life. When congruent time perspective interventions were used, people had marginally higher satisfaction with life than in cases when general and incongruent interventions were used. Also, with work-family conflict, that was the case. Congruent time perspective got better results than those that were general or incongruent time perspective interventions. Also, when testing for implementation and evaluation, that means whether people used the proposals, in what extent they used the proposal, and how did they evaluate those proposals? Were they useful? Were they good for them? Between the experimental groups, we did not find any statistically significant differences. Also, implementation and time perspective, there were no significant results between different groups. However, I need to mention that people that participated in the second wave of measurement had quite higher, had quite lower hedonistic present. So the people with higher hedonistic present were not responding to our plea at the end of the experiment. Also, just as an interesting fact, people that have higher past positive dimension evaluate interventions more positively. We had troubles with a small sample, of course. In Slovenia, we had only 150 people in the first wave, and only 85 people decided to go through the experiment and report their measures at the end of it. Also, it is possible that effects were not noticeable because the interventions were only lasting for 14 days. So we were also thinking about the possibility of making longer interventions, but we will have to use it after in later stages. It is possible that interventions were not optimally designed for time perspectives because we were in a hurry at the beginning of the pandemics. However, I think we got some interesting effects that look promising for future research. So to conclude, I would like to invite you, write me an email, drop me an email. I hope we will be able to prepare more interventions based on time perspective and test them extensively on the well-being field. If anyone would like to join us, please let me know, drop me a line. We can discuss matters further on during the email conversation and also during the questions that I hope you will ask at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for your attention and looking forward to our discussion.